I had never believed in promises. Not in a universe that had shredded alliances as easily as comets shred through the void. Yet there she was, standing on the observation deck of the Ethereum, her silhouette bathed in the cold neon of the Orion Nebula, promising me everything. Her name was Lyra Kale, an emissary from the Arinder Collective, an advanced civilization whose technology made ours look like primitive fire sticks. She had come to negotiate, but it quickly became clear that her motives were more personal than political. "Everything," she said, her voice's smooth cadence that could calm an entire starship's worth of nerves. "I will give you the knowledge, the technology, the influence if you help me." I leaned against the railing, pretending not to be captivated by her gaze. "Help you how?" I asked. Her lips curved, not quite a smile. "To do what no human has ever done before. To survive what no species has survived. To change the course of history itself." I had been a soldier, a captain of the UNS Vigilant, trained in tactics, survival, and war. I knew the cost of deals whispered in the shadows of powerful beings. I should have walked away. And yet, something in her eyes made me step closer. Chapter 1: The Pact. The mission was simple on paper. Infiltrate the Veil Station, a sprawling, autonomous outpost in the Shard Nebula, and retrieve a data core containing the collective secrets on interdimensional travel. "Do you trust me?" she asked as we stood aboard the transport shuttle, its engines thrumming like the heartbeat of some colossal beast. "I trust my instincts," I replied. Humans had survived worse than alien trickery. Instinct was our weapon, not reason. She laughed softly, a sound that should have been impossible in the metal confines of the shuttle. "Instinct will keep you alive, but it won't keep you human." Her words lingered, and I couldn't tell if they were a warning or a promise. When we landed, the Veil Station rose above us like a black monolith, its towers piercing the neon clouds. Its automated defenses scanned our shuttle with lasers that could slice through hulls in seconds. "Timing is everything," Lyra whispered, handing me a device that pulsed with alien energy. "This will bypass the outer shields, but the inner core, that's where the real test begins." We moved like shadows, slipping past the sentries with the precision of seasoned hunters. I couldn't shake the feeling that the station itself was alive, aware of our intrusion. And maybe it was. Chapter 2: The Price of Curiosity. We reached the inner chamber, a cathedral of wires and pulsating data nodes. The core hovered in the center, suspended by beams of light that looked like they were torn from reality itself. "You're human," Lyra said, almost accusingly. "That curiosity of yours, it will either save us or doom us." I ignored her words and approached the core. My hands hovered over the console. I could feel the energy vibrating beneath my fingertips, a rhythm that resonated with something deep in my chest. "You're ready," she said softly, almost tenderly. "Ready for what?" "To accept the cost." The words hit me like a meteor strike. I realized, then, that her promise of everything came with an unspoken toll. The collective never gave knowledge freely. They extracted a price from those who sought it. I glanced at Lyra, searching for a hint of deceit, a shadow of doubt. But her eyes were clear, unwavering. "What's the price?" I asked. She hesitated, just a fraction of a second. "Your humanity," she said. It wasn't the first time I'd heard the phrase, but hearing it from someone who could see every corner of the cosmos, it was different. The station hummed around us, indifferent to human fear, indifferent to the bargains of fragile beings. Chapter 3: Crossing the Line. The extraction was immediate, brutal. The core's energy enveloped me, and I felt every thought, every memory, every instinct amplified and dissected. Knowledge surged through me in waves, incomprehensible at first, then coherent. I saw the building of galaxies, the the rise of civilizations and the fall of stars. I felt the pulse of time, the weight of entropy, the fragility of existence. Lyra stood beside me, her hand on my shoulder. "Do you see now?" I see everything," I whispered, overwhelmed. "And you understand the price," she said, a shadow of sadness crossing her face. "Yes," I said, though I didn't. How could a human fully grasp what it meant to know the entirety of existence? The transformation was subtle at first. My reflexes sharpened. My senses expanded beyond sight and sound. I could feel the station's machinery as if it were an extension of my body. I could anticipate the smallest fluctuations in energy, the tiniest movements in the shadows. I had become something more, but something less human. Lyra watched me carefully, the promise of everything reflected in her gaze. "You are ready," she said, "but only for the final step." Chapter 4. The final step, the final test was not in the station, but in the void beyond it. The collective had set a trap, an anomaly that consumed entire starships, a rift in space-time that devoured matter and memory alike. Only a being capable of transcending human limitations could survive it. "Do you fear it?" Lyra asked as we approached the rift. Fear? I didn't recognize the feeling anymore. Humans felt fear, yes, but I had stepped beyond that boundary. Still, part of me, a stubborn fragment of flesh and bone, hesitated. "You promised me everything," I said, "and I intend to claim it." Her smile was faint, bittersweet. "And I promised you everything," she whispered. "But even promises have limits." We plunged into the anomaly. Space twisted around us, light bending and fracturing like glass. Stars exploded in reverse, rewinding centuries in seconds. I felt my mind stretching to keep pace, my human core screaming in protest. And then I realized the price wasn't just my humanity. It was the bond between us, the trust we had formed in the fleeting time we had known each other. Every step forward severed a thread of connection. Every moment of survival pulled us apart. Chapter 5. Emergence. We emerged on the other side, in a system untouched by the collective, a newborn galaxy glowing with potential. The station, the rift, the entire ordeal had transformed me. I was no longer merely human, yet the reflection in Lyra's eyes reminded me of who I once was. "You survived," she said, awe and regret mingling in her voice. "I did," I replied, though the word felt hollow. She reached for my hand, but I hesitated. "What now?" I asked. "Now," she said softly, "we decide how to wield it. Knowledge, power, survival. You can change everything human, or lose yourself completely." And in that moment, I understood the weight of her promise. Everything she had offered came at the cost of something fundamental. My instincts had kept me alive. My curiosity had pushed me further. My humanity had been both shield and sacrifice. I looked at her and realized something profound. Humans were not the strongest, the fastest, or the most intelligent species in the universe. But we were unpredictable. We dared when others hesitated. We adapted when others faltered. We survived because we fought with a kind of stubborn, irreducible spirit. "Then we fight," I said. "Not just to survive, but to define what comes next." Lyra smiled, a mixture of pride and sorrow. "Then we fight," she echoed. And so, in the newborn light of a galaxy untouched by conquest, two beings, one human, one alien, prepared to change the course of the universe. The price had been unspoken, the cost steep, but the potential limitless. Because humans did not simply follow rules. We rewrote them. We endured what others could not. And when the universe demanded everything, we gave it and still survived. Epilogue. The legacy of a promise. Years later, tales would circulate across star systems of a human who had transcended, who had touched the heart of the collective and lived. Some called it a miracle. Others called it madness. But those who truly understood the story knew the truth. She had promised me everything, and I had accepted the unspoken price. I had become more than human, yet in my heart, I remained the same stubborn, curious, indomitable creature who had dared to answer that promise. And the universe had never been the same again. We emerged on the other side of the anomaly, in a system untouched by the collective, a newborn galaxy glowing with the raw potential of creation. Light shimmered differently here, bending and stretching across the void in ways that reminded me just how small we humans were, and yet how infinite our capacity could be. The station, the rift, the trials, they had all transformed me. I was no longer merely human. My senses, my mind, even my reflexes had evolved beyond the species that had once defined me. Yet, standing beside Lyra, I felt an ache, a remnant of the human heart that had survived, that had dared, that had questioned the cost at every step. "You survived," she said, all laced with sorrow. Her hand trembled slightly as she reached toward mine. "Against every calculation, every prediction, you survived." "I did," I said, though my voice felt foreign. I was not the same person who had first stepped onto her shuttle, trusting instincts and curiosity. I had crossed thresholds no human was meant to cross, and yet, some part of me, the stubborn, unrelenting part, remained. She studied me carefully. And the price? I looked down at my hands, once ordinary, now vessels of knowledge and power I could barely comprehend. "I have paid it," I said, "but it hasn't destroyed me. It changed me." Her eyes softened. "Knowledge, power, survival, all within your grasp. But the unspoken cost is always part of the gift. You cannot return to who you were before." I let the weight of her words sink in. Humanity had always been about choice, about risk, about the courage to endure when every calculation said we should fail. That was the secret the collective could never predict, that humans fought with something beyond logic, beyond reason, a spirit they could measure but never understand. "Then we fight," I said. The words weren't just for her. They were a promise to the universe itself. Not just to survive, but to shape what comes next, to define the rules instead of following them. Her lips curved into a faint, bittersweet smile. "Then we fight," she echoed. We looked out at the newborn galaxy, a canvas of possibility. Here, civilizations could rise or fall. Stars could ignite or burn out without notice. And yet, I knew one truth above all. Humans endured, adapted, and overcame. The universe had never encountered a species quite like us, and now, perhaps, it would never forget. Epilogue: The legacy of a promise. Years later, the legends of that human reached the farthest stars, whispered in the halls of the collective, recorded in the archives of civilizations that spanned galaxies. Some said it was a miracle. Others called it madness. But those who truly understood the story knew the truth. She had promised me everything, and I had accepted the unspoken price. I had glimpsed the infinite. I had felt the weight of creation. And yet, I had returned, not to conquer, not to dominate, but to endure. To remind the universe that humans were not simply another species to catalog or contain. I walked among the stars with Lyra, not as subordinate or superior, but as equal, partners bound by the journey we had endured. Together, we explored the edges of existence, challenged the boundaries of the possible, and proved that when humans were willing to risk everything, we could survive what others could not even imagine. And in the end, the promise was kept. Not in the way she had said, not as a gift freely given, but as a testament that when the universe demanded everything, humans would give it and still endure, still fight, still rise. Because humanity was more than instinct, more than survival. We were the spark that could ignite galaxies. We were the unrelenting force that no alien algorithm could predict. We were the choice, the anomaly, the indomitable spirit. And the universe, vast and infinite, had never seen anything like us.